Everyone, and welcome to WatchHaus. I'm your host for the week, Brandon Thibbledork Padilla, aka the Seagull Man, but kind of not really. I'm kind of retiring that. It's getting a little old at this point. We'll talk about that later. I'm joined by two amazing guests and our producer, Rob, in the background here. We've got Mallory and Zach. Go ahead and let's introduce you guys. I think, have you guys been on the show? I've kind of been taking a couple weeks off. Give me some refreshers here. Walk me through this.
I have not been on the show before, no. So this is my first
So
time.
welcome.
Thank you very much. I watch every week. Big fan, big fan. And I write for the Boston Uprising. That is my team. Those are my boys, and they stress me out.
Right. So both of you are beat writers, obviously, for the Game Haus, who we are
Mhm.
bringing on here to talk about all things Overwatch League. You specialize in the Boston Uprising, and then what about you, my man?
I am a Gladiators writer, and this is also my first time on WatchHaus.
Got it. Okay. I've been taking a couple weeks off because it's been ridiculous and crazy in my life. But it's good to be back and good to have some good guests on here. We are going to talk about another. It feels almost cheap to say that this was another crazy week in the Overwatch League. Like, that feels really generic and everything. But honestly, like, every week so far has been ridiculous.
Mhm.
So, yeah. Before we get into any of that, though, let's reset our watches here and kind of talk about what we've been up to. Ladies first, what have you been doing lately? What's going on in your neck of the woods over there?
I didn't know this before because I guess I don't pay attention to math. I don't do math very well. But apparently, the Boston Uprising were able to skyrocket themselves into ninth place after sweeping the Florida Mayhem. And now they can go to the stage one playoffs if they do well this upcoming week. Um, so that's where my brain's been at. I've been having to, you know, just go through and realize that my team has an actual chance and we might be in the playoffs. And that would be really, really good since we started off the season not that great.
It's a shame that they're going to play Dallas this week.
I can't.
Lose. Zach, what about you? What's going on in your neck of the woods?
Gladiators just finished their stage one. More than likely, I don't think it's possible anymore. There was a lot of things that needed to happen, and I don't know if it's still possible for us to get that eighth seed at a 3-4 record. But I'm very happy with how they ended the season. I think ending 2-0 really gave them some momentum going into stage two and a much needed break. Other than that, just been writing about that, making some good content for the Game Haus.
I think they're out this stage because you have to be at least 4-3 with.
Yeah.
I think the line right now is 4-3 plus 2 or 4-3 plus 3 to really make it in.
I think we needed Paris to win, and they didn't do that for us. So
no, Paris hasn't been winning very much at all lately, which has been a very interesting storyline, which we may or may not touch on coming up here. In terms of what I've been doing this week, just to round out the Reset Your Watch segment here, I've been doing lots of contender stuff as usual, covering the various regions for Contenders OW and all that stuff. Many of these regions are starting off or getting into their first couple weeks or something like that. China still actually hasn't started. They start this Saturday. And then I've been interviewing people like Mickey and Dogman and Linkser and a lot of cool names, which has been fun. I have an interview with Taimu coming this week at some point, I think Wednesday or Friday. But I also have midterms going on, so we're going to see about that. And then in general, I've just been trying to plug all my old interviews because there's like 20 of them. So I figure I can kind of roll on that for a couple weeks and see how that goes.
He's no longer the Seagull Man. He's the interview man.
Exactly. Right. I got to kind of redo the branding because he plays a lot of Apex now, and I don't do that. And I don't write about it or know about it, and I'm not very good at it. I'm just going to stick to the Overwatch thing for now, I think. And with that depressing note of Seagull still being gone and not coming back, let's talk about the news. There's some news. And I'm sure everybody in chat has one particular piece of news, and naturally that they're thinking of. So naturally, we're going to do that one last. I will start actually. Mallory, actually, do you want to walk us through the structure of the rest of the stage of the Overwatch League that we have written down here so far?
The structure? I mean, like how the
there are a couple points here that we've got about the games this week and then the playoffs next week and everything like that. If you want to walk through that little section right there, I don't want to spend all this time talking.
Oh no, sure. So this weekend we only have games on Saturday and Sunday. There's 4 games on each day. And these are the games that will basically make or break it for a lot of the teams. I think there's only 3 teams right now that have clinched actual playoffs, which is NYXL, Vancouver Titans, and the Toronto Defiant, right? Yes.
Correct.
So from there's like a whole bunch of teams that are sort of neck and neck with each other in terms of map differential. It's usually in the +3 or +2. And there are some really important games coming up this weekend that will definitely define which teams are going to the playoffs. And then the weekend after this one is the stage 1 playoffs, which I think is on a Sunday. It's just one day, right?
No, it's a whole week's worth.
It's a whole week worth?
I'll show you. I'll bring this up right now. They're fairly light days, to be fair. The quarterfinals, so it's top 8. And the quarterfinals are on Thursday and Friday. There are 2 matchups each day to get through all 8 teams, which is pretty cool. Saturday, semifinals. Find out, trim through the top 4, find who's playing in the finals. Sunday, grand finals. So it runs from Thursday the 21st through Sunday the 24th.
Dang.
1 game apiece, or rather 1 game on Sunday. And the quarterfinals are all first to 3, so they could go very quickly. Frankly, there could be some sweeps, but semifinals and grand finals are first to 4 or best of 7, something to that effect. Basically, they're going to be long and big and crazy, and when New York and Vancouver make it to the finals, it's going to be ridiculous, but entertaining. As much as I want to be the biased Dallas fanboy all day, really it's what I want. It's what we deserve. I think that's going to be so good. Okay, I will discuss. I'll make another quick contenders aside, because that's kind of what I do around here. I'm just going to walk everybody through the 7 regions of contenders and kind of what's going on and what's interesting about it right now. This won't take me more than a couple minutes, definitely. Wink. North American contenders and South American contenders are both playing right now, right this instant. Hope you guys have some multi-Twitch pulled up so you can watch all of them. They're amazing. Second win, just 3-1 to Uprising Academy. Montreal and the Gladiators Legion were going neck and neck. That's going to be a ridiculous game all the way through.
Ooh, let's go Legion.
Yeah, no, and they've been looking very good against Montreal, although Logix is being Logix and doing Logix things, which is fun to watch. You got to love it. 2 more games coming up after that. Chicken Contendies versus Mayhem Academy and Fusion Uni versus the other team in North American East, whatever. South America, Low-Key Esports 4-0 swept very convincingly against Caverna. And then I believe Ints are sweeping Sukinho Nation right now. They play again. Both of these regions play again on Wednesday. They play at the same time, which I don't really like, but I don't make the rules. In Australia, the Sydney Drop Bears are maintaining their 32-0 streak of games because they're the Drop Bears, and that's just what they do. They look very good. But Blank Esports and Order Army are actually both also doing very well. They are 3-0 and 2-1 respectively, looking good. In the Pacific region, returning, or not champs actually, they were 2-time champs, and then they lost in the quarterfinals off an upset last season. Talon Esports are doing pretty well. They're trying to keep that going again, kind of try and bring that back after being upset. And then Jupiter, an all-Japanese organization, which is one of the only ones in high-level Overwatch right now, is also doing very well. So good on them. Chinese contenders start this Saturday. Oh man, that region's going to be crazy, as it was last season. I expect T1W to keep being ridiculous. until they get pulled apart. But there are also some academy teams coming in. You already had Team CC for the Shanghai Dragons. Now you have Hangzhou Academy. Chengdu has linked up with Lingan Esports for their academy team, and the name changed slightly. And then there's a Guangzhou Academy as well. So China actually entering into the academy ecosphere in a big way, which is going to be very interesting, especially if these teams start to consistently struggle towards mid-season. In Europe, returning champions Giganti are doing very well as British Hurricane and Angry Titans, who are all perfect right now. This region has always been very close. I don't expect that to change. And in Korea, there haven't been very many games yet. They start their week 2 starts tonight at 3 a.m., which is, ooh man, that's early. WGS Armament and Runaway are both looking very good. WGS upset Element Mystic for the second time. They upset GC Busan last season, and now they upset Element Mystic, who were perfect last season. So, I don't know. Contenders is crazy, and you guys should watch it. There's the end of that segment. So Zach, you're the LAEst guy, the most LA guy we've got here. I shouldn't have tried that word. So let's talk about some LA news. Do you want to talk about the biggest piece of news in the room right now and what's going on with that?
Yeah, the LA Valiant, after going 0-7 in Stage 1, have officially let go of Moon, their head coach.
Thoughts? I want to hear your guys' take on this. Was this a good move? Was this a mistake? What do you think?
Something had to change. I mean, you go 0-7 after being the Stage 4 champion. I understand the meta has shifted and like teams that were doing well may not be doing so well anymore. I mean, look at the Los Angeles Gladiators. Like they were not doing well with this current meta. They did not like they brought in Roar and he was looking promising. He had some moments of failure, but like eventually week 4 came around, they had their 2 games and they were able to kind of like gel more as a unit. But if you're going 0-7, something's going wrong. You got to change something, and I think the head coach position is one of the ones, especially in traditional sports, that's one of the most vulnerable to that.
And Mallory, this is almost, now that I think of it, this is almost like the opposite of Boston, where Boston was rated very low and have really surprised people in a good way. Whereas the Valiant were rated usually middle of the pack, around 10, 8 to 10 or so, maybe a little higher, maybe a little lower. But now they're 20th. So how do you, given your unique perspective on this, perhaps, how do you think this move is going to affect the Valiant moving forward?
Well, I mean, I spend some of my time also covering the Valiant. I had to watch that Clown Fiesta on Saturday. That was just
They've had 7 Clown Fiestas, please.
I know. This game on Saturday was an absolute just disaster. And it does not surprise me whatsoever that coming back after that, they let go of their coach because that should not have happened. That was ridiculous. So I definitely think it's the best idea going forward, especially if you can take the number 1 Pacific team in the league and then go 0-7 in the first stage. A lot of people want to blame the meta, like Goats isn't their meta, Goats isn't their meta. Goats isn't the meta, it's not the best for a lot of teams, but they're still doing their best. And the fact of the matter is right now their best is not good. So they need somebody else to direct them towards being good. Also they need to play Custa. I'm sorry.
Honestly, that might be my biggest issue with the whole thing over this past stage is just like, I get it. His brain is huge. It claps so hard and alerts all the guards. I get it. I understand. But like, it's Custa. You gotta play him.
You
I don't
have
know.
to play Custa. Why
My
Custa?
Yeah, exactly. My understanding of it, from what I've heard from a couple of different sources, is that Moon relied very heavily on the assistance of his underlings. I know that's kind of a derogatory term. His assistant coaches, basically. And then Goomba left, and he lost his main assistant coach. And Goomba, a very well deserved move to Boston, and Boston's been doing very well, and maybe that has something to do with Goomba. And it certainly looks like it has something to do with the Valiant's decline so far, because that's one of the only major changes that they've made, although they did replace him with Packing 10 in terms of coaching specifically. So it's going to be interesting to see how Moon being gone affects that. Like, is Packing 10 now going to step up and like, here's how we're going to change the system, and Kooky go to In and Out, and Custa get in here, and yeah, right. Like who's gonna, first off, who's gonna get taken to In and Out, right? Like, are we seeing roster moves? Like, we don't know. There are so many things that could happen off of this. I'm curious if you guys curious to see if you guys have any ideas on next steps. If you're the general manager for the Valiant and all of a sudden you have to start looking for a head coach, what do you do? Where do you go?
I mean, one of the names that I saw that stood out was Made. That just seems like the logical step for me. If I was in charge, would be like, all right, our head coach is gone. We have some really strong, people that we hired, because I'm almost positive that when the season started, this was like almost an entirely new coaching staff from like the underling part. I don't like that I'm saying underling, but it's
Yeah, sorry, I kind of pulled that word up.
it's okay. So with all those new people, you'd think that like something could happen, but nothing has been happening. So you would hopefully want to go for somebody new and somebody who's good at it. And
I'll throw out the details here. Stoop and Dongsu are still with the team. They joined last March. So
yeah,
their roles as assistant coaches are maintaining. They are still there. They don't seem to be leaving. The only people who were released today were a Korean translator and assistant manager, and then Moon himself. So, yeah, and then Packing 10 was added, obviously, beginning of February.
yeah.
So you,
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say everybody was super hyped for Packing 10 when that announcement came through. Everybody was living for it. So I don't know. Maybe he'll step up because he seems to resonate well with the fans and people really like him. So that could happen.
Zach, any thoughts? Where do you think this might be going for the Valiant?
I don't think we're going to see any roster moves between stage 1 and stage 2. The Valiant have, 3 weeks before they're going to be playing again. And so they have time to find another coach. They have time to see if maybe one of the assistant coaches coach. They're familiar with the team. You don't have to acclimate them. It gives kind of a more familiar atmosphere. I think that the Valiant were very, very, very not smart in at least switching something up. Like, you have Custa. I know for whatever reason you're not going to play him. You went 0-7. Something's got to change. I would be very shocked if we don't see him week 1 of stage 2. But other than that, I mean, other than an assistant coach of another Overwatch League team, could we see them bring anyone in? Because it is, while they do have like 3.5 weeks, is that enough time for a coach to implement their new style, their new coaching style, their new play style, how they want to run the team, who's going to get to play? Is that enough time for a coach to be able to come in and learn everything about the team?
I will argue, though, I wonder when did the general manager for the LA Valiant, I believe his name is Mike Schwartz. Yeah, I got that right. When do you think Mike sat down and realized Moon is leaving at the end of the stage? Let's start looking for new people, right? Was there a point in which, he was just like, time to start trials? And if so, how much extra time does that tack on? And what have they been able to do with it? 3 weeks, I absolutely agree, is cutting it a little thin if you're trying to integrate an entirely new coach and an entirely new structure in a meta like this, or in a meta that is about to shift insanely into something, who knows what. So it's going to be interesting to see if they've had enough time to move confidently on that, or if they're going to try and stick with what they've got, maybe promote Packing 10. As you said, they could bring on an Overwatch League coach with some experience, maybe Mezer from the Outlaws, Jane. I don't know about Wolf or Tickety necessarily from the Fuel. I know their coaching structure best out of any of the teams. You could talk about Curry Shot from Mayhem Academy, OptiDocs from Angry Titans. But as you said, if they've only got a couple weeks to really go for it, do they take that risk? Maybe they feel that would be too much and they might keep losing, or maybe they feel we're 0-7. What do we have to lose? It's going to be an interesting, like, philosophical conversation, one that I might like to try and have here soon. We'll see about that. But yeah, this should be an interesting discussion. I agree on the roster moves, though. I don't think they're going to shake anything up there. I don't think they need to, except
I don't think it'd be
swapping
smart.
out the main support. Yeah, no. Like, these players are still highly rated. You know, Fate is still a great main tank. Space is still ridiculous. Kareev can still play anything, which isn't fair at all. Though his Zarya was...
Yeah.
So, yeah, overall, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. I'm very curious to see what chat thinks, if they want to throw their opinions out there, or give us any comments on Twitter or anything like that. Another option, sorry, as I read through my notes here, dude, just bring back Goomba.
No.
Take him back. Just no button.
You'd have to
Boston,
offer a pretty lucrative contract to do that, though.
But a head coaching position? He's
And
not
I'm-
he wouldn't be an underling anymore. Come back. We know you are what made us so good. Now we will pay you the big bucks and give you the corner office and the placard with your name on it. You know, maybe that pulls him back. I don't know.
No.
I know you don't want it. Of course you don't want it, but
I do want to point out that the Valiant did have a pretty hard schedule. I will say that most of the teams that they've fought and lost to are playoff bound. And so if you look to next season, first week they're playing the Shock, which is going to be pretty brutal if I have to imagine, if things continue as the way they do. Then they're playing Atlanta and the Gladiators. They might have their break against Washington. And then they're headed to Dallas for the...
If they don't have their break against Washington, what happens then?
Exactly. I think it all kind of depends on who they're hiring as the coach now. Are they going to go with maybe they're not even going to put someone in a head coach position, and they're just going to let the pool of assistant coaches be the leaders
London
of the
did
team
for a bit. Yeah, they coached by committee for a hot second, so it can work.
Exactly.
Yeah, that could be done. Absolutely.
Maybe
we don't know.
Maybe some of the players are going to step up and be kind of some player coaches as it comes down to it.
Maybe he could coach.
You've got Big Brain Custa. Maybe he agrees that he...
No, he's not there yet. He could do it, but it's like Jake moving into casting. Like, don't do it yet. Have a good casting, a good playing career before you move on into your... he's not done.
Let him be a player coach. Let him have a taste of both. Let him give some shot calling. Let him have this kind of role as pretty much an advanced captain. Let him make some decisions and see if this is really something he can do, regardless of if he plays or not. I mean, obviously he's going to want to put himself on that lineup, but if he feels that it's not the best for the team, and if he's not going to continue, he's not going to want to sit there on the bench doing nothing. At least maybe give him this opportunity to move into an assistant coach role while still being a player.
You don't seem pleased with that idea, Mallory. What do you think?
No, I mean, I could see it. It makes sense. I'm just not pleased because I want Custa to play. I love him.
Yeah.
I think he's a player. He's one of the few support players that plays Mercy that I can watch and be like, this is good. This makes me happy. So I would love to see him play. If they're gonna switch, stuff around and actually put him in, but if they're not gonna put him in, or if they only want to play him sometimes, then it would make sense. I think Zach said a player coach aspect would make sense. If he's so big brained, then let him do something.
I have to point out that someone in chat named him Coachta, and God, that's so good.
Is that
It's there.
That's
it's there.
Kate?
Thank you, Kate. Yeah, so good. I would also point out that if we get Coachta, his first move is going to be, right, I'm the coach now. Cookie, you're benched. I will start. and then, you know, I could see that going. But yeah, no, I actually think that's extremely insightful. That could be a place where he really shines. And suddenly, you know, if he steps up into that sort of like half and half role, but then is kicking ass as a coach, you know, he could realize like, I found my calling. It's not playing Lucio. It's telling other people how to play Lucio or something.
And that doesn't necessarily stop him from continuing his role as a player. Like as you were saying with the Jake thing, it's a little hard to be both a caster and a player because you kind of got to be two places at once. In a player coach role, that even gives him, especially if he's playing, more access to the front lines. Like he's going to be there on stage with everyone, shot calling as not only the captain but as the coach, telling them what they need to do.
Sorry, I'm typing memes in chat right now. Anywho, yeah, okay. So we have some interesting ideas on where Custa could go and how the Valiant's coaching situation could evolve. We're generally agreed that the roster is not going to shake up. Do not trade Custa to Boston, Panda.
Yes!
Oh, that's a terrible idea.
Just saying,
Darby
would he be forcing a move?
Yes.
That could, yeah, maybe he wants. I wonder. That's actually an interesting question. I wonder if the Valiant, like, if their coaching doesn't shape up when they make this change. I wonder if people start, you know, like, trade me,
yeah,
throw me away, get me out of here.
I mean, we could see another Fissure situation where he was with London stage 1 and he wasn't getting played enough, so he said, "I'm good enough to play on virtually any other team," and he left and he went to the Gladiators and he found success, and then. I mean, eventually he moved on to what he feels is a better fit for him. But maybe Custa's looking for a similar thing. He's not played a minute this stage, and they need to. He really deserves to. So there'd be teams that would welcome him with open arms.
Take me to In-N-Out or else. That could be very interesting now that you bring it up. But before we go any farther down the In-N-Out rabbit hole or where Custa could go or what he could do, which is pretty much anything, I think we've established he can do whatever he wants. Live your dream, you beautiful man. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about our match of the week from last week. There were a lot of good ones, but I want to hear from you guys which one really stood out to you and why. Mallory, start us off.
Oh, you know it's got to be that Shanghai-London game. You know it. I was watching it. I was ready to be upset because I just want the Dragons to succeed. And boy, howdy, did they succeed. That entirety of Ilios with those first 2 rounds of both teams playing literally whatever they wanted was some of the most entertaining Overwatch I've gotten to watch in stage 1 because we're also sick of goats. We know that. So these teams were both like, all right, that's enough. Diem playing Widowmaker, destroying people. Prophet on Hanzo, and then I think he got to play Tracer too. He got like a sick double bomb kill. That entire
He didn't stick a wall?
No.
What? I didn't know he could do that.
It's possible. You can put a pulse bomb on a player. Did you know that?
What? No. I've never seen Prophet do that before. That can't be a thing. He's so good. He would do that if that's a thing you could do, Prophet would do it. Okay? He's like the best.
Science says so, but you know. Yeah, I don't know. That was my game for me. That was so good. I especially love that they put Geggery back in for the last map. She got a win, and she got to win while being on stage and while she was playing because she wasn't there the first 2 times. And it was just a good moment. It was like tooth and nail until the very end. That last map on Ilios could have gone either way. And the fact of the matter is that when it got to literally the end of it, Gamsu just decided it's my time. And they did that for us.
My favorite is the player just feeling just kind of looking up from the keyboard and going, I want to win. That'd be pretty nice. I think it would be pretty cool if I just won right now. Let me look at all these keys I got to press. Which one am I going to? Let's press Q. Let's press Q. And then they win. And that's always a lot of fun. When you can see that moment where they're just like, if I press Q right now, who's going to stop me? And usually it's somebody, but sometimes it's nobody. And then that's really fun. Okay, so great match. Frankly, not gonna lie, haven't seen a minute of it. I was at work, but I'm gonna go back. You've convinced me. I was already convinced, but like you've extra convinced me now. I'm gonna go back and watch it because it sounds really fun.
The back cap.
Yeah, I did see the clip of the back cap, and that looked pretty awesome. I'm always down for a back cap.
Because that was a large back cap. He covered distance.
It was huge.
And you're distracted, man. I don't know. All right, Zach, walk me through your match of the week. What was it?
Match of the week for me has got to be the Gladiators versus the Charge. You had a very hopeful playoff team in the Charge who, going into the season, I did not have very high expectations of them. And they definitely proved me wrong. I got to do an interview with Hydration right before week 2, and he said they were the team that he was most looking forward to of the expansion team, saying they were the most unique. And they showed it in this match. That first map that they took where they ran Hot Butt on the Pharah and just nano boosted him at every opportunity.
Loved
Hot Butt. It hurt to watch, but it was really interesting to see some of the comps that they were running. We got to see some Roadhog play from Hydration, which was always fun. But the Gladiators were able to pull 3 wins or 3 maps out of that as a win.
3-1, right?
Yeah, 3-1. The Charge took the first one on Nepal, and then the Gladiators came back. Well, the rest of the match was GOATs, pretty much. I was actually excited to see it because the Gladiators haven't been doing as good on GOATs. But Big Goose really stepped his game up and did not die as early on in team fights as he had been throughout this stage. And also Roar. He's been kind of inconsistent this season, very promising at times, but teams have figured out that if you focus him really hard at the beginning of the fight, he'll die first and you'll be able to take the win. But they really showed a lot better synergy this match. And as much as it pains my soul to see Surefour on the bench, Decay is an incredible Zarya. And if what everyone says is true and the Gladiators paid a large sum of money to get him, it was worth every penny.
It was a lot of money. It was a painful amount of money to see.
But they have
at the same
money,
time. Yeah,
so it's okay.
Yeah, if you got it, man, spend it. I saw that matchup and thought it was going to be really interesting, only because Guangzhou is just like 6 hydrations, just rolling around, playing whatever. Maybe they're on Lucio, maybe they're on Rhine, Wrecking Ball, Doomfist, Pharah. Who knows? Like, it's just him cloned.
Yeah.
Hoppa's there. It's great.
Yeah.
I really like Hoppa lately, too. I feel he was, I mean, the meta we were in, he was kind of locked in. But he got traded, and he was like, hey, can I just play
anything?
Whatever I want? And they said, that is literally the only thing we do here.
Yeah, and the Zenyatta matchup. The Zenyatta matchup was a really good one to watch because Shu's been playing really well, but like no one's talking about how well Shaz is actually doing. Like before that match against the Charge, I think he was 4th in healing per 10 minutes as Zenyatta in the league, which he was laying down a lot of damage and laying up a lot of healing for his team. And so I don't know what they're planning to do with Ripa, because you can't separate like Shaz and Big Goose. Unless we see unless they're planning to ditch all the DPS players and play their three tanks and 3 supports that they have once Bishu gets better. But I don't see Ripa playing a minute unless we were playing against some very bottom of the table teams if we turn it around.
No, Ripa's going to be their Baptiste specialist. You'll see.
Ooh.
He's about to blow it up.
Oh,
I'd love to see that.
I'd love to see that.
I'm very curious to see who plays Baptiste on these teams. I have a feature actually in the works on that right now, kind of talking with a bunch of different players from a bunch of different teams asking about it. Very interesting answers so far. So keep an eye on that. But I want to ask the Gladiators about it because, I have no idea, man. That's going to be awesome. My game of the week, definitely not biased in any way, was Dallas beating the tar out of the Shanghai Dragons. after a very close, don't give me that face, after a very close 3-2 game, which was only slightly based on luck and a terrible C9. It was good to see Dallas rally and for their coaches to spend the time and for their players to spend the time and to turn what was once a close matchup into a not so close matchup. I interviewed with Taimu right after the 3-2 game against Dallas, which he was very confused about. He was like, "Why are you talking to? Why are you? They? You want to talk to OG or something? Do you want to talk to Unco?" And I was like, "No, dude, I want to talk to you." So he was confused about that. But I asked him about it, and Jane was also there, and I asked him about it too. And he said that it was grind time. He did not like what he saw for that 3-2. He did not like seeing Ding's Sombra get 5-man EMPs every 40 seconds. It's pretty not great. So it was good to see them. I'm sure you did. I mean, it was great. And frankly, I'm not going to lie, I liked it a little bit too because I like Ding and I respect him.
Mm-hmm.
So good. And I want the Dragons to win, just not against Dallas.
I
felt the same way in the London game.
Exactly. Right. You know, there are some teams where you really want them to win. And then there are some teams where you're just like, hey, can you stop winning just today? Just for today. You can go back to it tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. Mm-hmm. That was one of those games. And so was the 4-0 this week as well. It was great. Nepal was, I don't know what happened there. That was pretty crazy. I'm not even going to try to break that one down. Greater minds have tried and failed. I'm going to let Sideshow just do the thing he does with the sock mic and everything. Vast will be there. Giga Chad. Yeah, Yada Chad, whatever. Memes will happen about that game because it was memey. But the rest of it was so good. Very satisfying as a Dallas fan to watch that game, I will say. So that's my game of the week. To kind of close us out, unless you guys can think of anything else non sequiturous to pull up, I want to talk about your favorite match for next week. We've only got 8 games, 2 days worth of games, some very contentious matchups, lots and lots of playoff spots on the line. There are currently 5 3-3 teams, and at least 8 that still, or at least 5 to 8 that could lock in a playoff spot and need to lock in a playoff spot, because right now only the top 3 are decided. So, Zach, let's go back to you and start. What is your match of the week this week for week 5 of stage 1?
It's got to be the Titans versus the Charge. The Titans will look to continue their absolute stomping of teams this season. They've already played the Charge once, and they stomped them then. So it'll be interesting to see if the Charge, what they do differently, especially in that desperation of trying to get a playoff spot, because they're currently, if I remember correctly, sitting maybe. And they will be hoping to book their ticket into that playoffs, and to do so in a rematch against the team that one of the 2 teams that's been undefeated that just look virtually unbeatable would be insane. And we saw the Hunters pull off what we thought was going to be the Titans' first loss, and they're showing a little bit of signs of weakness. So if the Hunters can do it, maybe the Charge can do it too.
The Charge are currently 3-3. Just to confirm that, 3-3 plus 3, very symmetrical. I will say the Titans and the Charge met up 3 weeks ago, Saturday, February 23rd, stage 1, week 2. It was a 3-2 finish, and it was close the whole way. Do you predict that to happen again?
Yeah, I think it's going to be something real similar. It's going to be a fight to the end. Who knows? Maybe if they pull off some of those strange comps like they did against the Gladiators, where they throw Hoppa on the Pharah and just nano boost him at every opportunity, they could take it.
I like it. That one will definitely be interesting. Mallory, let's talk about your match of the week. What do you got? I know what you got.
I have a feeling my match and your match might be the same match.
Maybe.
That Boston versus Dallas coming up on Saturday. Here's the thing. Boston has proven that they can take on good teams and beat them. They beat Seoul. in a map 5, they beat Seoul Dynasty. Because, yeah, they won, but they won against Florida Mayhem. So a lot of people are still like, I don't know about this Boston Uprising. But their first game of the season, the first game they played against NYXL, they took a map off of NYXL and they brought a different one to draw. So now that they have their preferred team, they have Color Hex, they have Fusions, they have Note, and that is a very solid tank line for them. However, the outcome of the game really does depend on which Boston Uprising wants to show up that day. And also, which Dallas Fuel wants to show up that day. We don't know. I do think OGE versus Fusions is going to be dope. I think that's going to be such a good matchup. I think you agree. Um, and that's the biggest thing I'm worried about is OGE because he is so strong. And then Unko. People sleep on Unko, but he is a madman. And I don't need to say it out loud, but he can outplay Kelix and then some. And Kelix makes me so nervous.
I'm going to clip that. Ooh, yeah.
Ooh,
feels good. Hi, Copper.
It's true. So, there's a dog. Oh my god. So I predicted in my preview that went out today, I predicted that it would go to a map 5, and I predicted that Dallas would win. Just because I cannot be sure what team is going to show up and who's going to do better until the game starts. And I think it's really going to be a battle of the tanks more than anything, because you have to know that they're both going to run goats. So it's really going to be up to Fusions and OGE, honestly. That's where I'm going to be looking at.
That's actually, so it's not actually my match of the week, which I will get to. Yeah, I know, right? Surprised you. But I want to talk about the players I think that we'll have to keep an eye on. I agree it will be tank based, and I agree that OG versus Fusions will be a meeting of Giga Chads that will break the Richter scale with their clapping. It will alert every guard in the world. But I want to pay attention to AKM versus Color Hex. Dude, the Zarya battles will be intense. And the Sombra battles between RCK and Note will be intense. I mean, we could go down every position here, right? But in general, AKM has been on such a hot streak. The farther Dallas pushes, the more he looks like an MVP contender. You know, if they can start taking down bigger teams than the teams they have admittedly played this season, you know, that suddenly starts taking on weight. And I feel busing into playoffs by beating Boston will be the first step in that sort of conversation, if it ever starts to come up at all. And I'm not about, even with my bias, I'm not about to say AKM is an MVP contender at this exact moment, because like Sinatra, Nene, right? Like we've kind of had that discussion back and forth throughout the team here. But that would be the beginning of that step. So I really want to keep an eye on him and see how he does when the pressure is starting to get really, really real, because that's step one right there on Saturday at 3 p.m. Pacific. My match of the week is not Boston versus Dallas. It is not Washington versus Paris. I don't know if that's anyone's match of the week, unfortunately.
London versus. I almost picked that one. Almost.
Yeah? Okay. It's not London versus Seoul or anything like that. It is Atlanta versus Chengdu. Because, man, that is going to be a ridiculous, chaotic match, right? You've got dueling Tor Bastion comps. You've got death from above gravitons. Let's look at the map pool for this. Let's see if there's anything juicy. So we've got Nepal, Numbani, Horizon Lunar, and Rialto, right? Nothing crazy, not Hollywood. I'm kind of glad, because I figured Defran would probably try that again. He'd probably be like, dude, there's no way that they fall for it twice. And he'd probably be right, which would be a shame, because I want people to fall for it more than once. So there are going to be some interesting maps that have the potential for some crazy flank plays, some good compositional mix-ups in the various phases of Numbani and Horizon and stuff like that. There will still be plenty of goats, of course. But overall, this game is going to clap. It's going to be so good. And I want Nano Bastion versus Nano Bastion, 3 different colors of molten core on the ground, Orisa supercharger Nano Farah nonsense, and
all the Hammond you can
all of it,
want.
and all of the Hammond you can eat, all of it. But at the same time, we'll also see Ameng bust out his apparently really good Reinhardt, his bumper
Where
level
did
Reinhardt.
that come from?
Hello?
Where did that come from, and where was it all
the
season?
3 stuns per shatter, like, hello, where did you come from, Mr. Good at Reinhardt guy? So yeah, I'm curious to see if that comes back out. Maybe it was just like an inspired performance this one night, like he
played
knew he
up
had
to
to
the
do
level
it.
of his opponent.
Right, exactly. If that's the kind of game he's going to play, he's going to have an interesting day. And Pogba, I don't want to say he's a weak link on this team because I don't think Atlanta really has too many of those right now, but I will say he's been quieter on the Reinhardt front, or on the main tank front in general, I should say. He's one of those Korean specialists with a long history of a really good Winston and a so-so Reinhardt, because in Korea you haven't needed Reinhardt in a long time until 3-3 came along, pretty much. So it'll be interesting to see how he stacks up against a guy who just steps on your throat, but with a hamster, a little hamster foot. You know, we'll see. Crazy game. That's my game of the week. Anything else you guys want to discuss about the week that was, the week that is, or the week that will be?
Yes, I have a question for you both. Who do you think is going to be the next head coach that's going to be fired?
I think there's only one possible answer right now. In this exact moment, there is only one who could be an obvious candidate to be sacked already. Go ahead.
Is it Wizard?
It's Wizard. I don't know. I think I speak a great deal with the Washington Justice. Their general manager, Kate, and their player operations manager, Mason, are both good friends of mine. I'm by no means like on the inside. I'm not getting the juice here because I'm a journalist and people don't trust us, which is fine. I don't necessarily want to be trusted with any juice. That's okay. So from what I understand in my very limited access and conversation with Mason and Kate and with Jonas, who I just interviewed, and with Stratus and Fozix and Avala, who I speak to fairly often, they're getting clapped, and it sucks, and it hurts, and all the guards know it, but they're taking it on the chin, right? They maintain, from my first interview with them, my round table that I did at Media Day, that they are still the happiest team in the Overwatch League, and more than anything, they understand that this game is a social game, a game where you have to be on the same page with the rest of your team, and if you tilt, you die. So even though they are 0-5, no hope in sight, bad games, hard strength of schedule, everybody ragging on them, at least forward facing, they're doing their best, right? Which is way better than Dallas last season, the Valiant so far, Fisher in general, right? Like, that's better than we could hope for. But there will be a point where ownership says, y'all got any of them wins yet? And Kate will say, nope. And they'll go, fire somebody. Who are you going to fire? I mean, Wizard, to be fair, they paid a great deal of money for Wizard, as I understand. And no, that does not mean they had budgetary problems. I still don't believe that from the conversations I've had, which is something I've discussed. But they did pay him. The man got paid. And after New York's experience last season, you can't say he didn't deserve it. It just hasn't translated. And it's something only they would know right now, is to what degree is he responsible for that? And to what degree is it the players struggling with nerves or to get to know each other? Or management or any of the assistant coaches. They have many. So that's something they will have to figure out. But if we're following sort of the traditional sports trajectory of take out the guy on the hottest seat in the room, Wizards next. Any thoughts, Mallory?
Well, I mean, I agree. I do think, however, I don't know if I'm in the majority or in the minority. I do think that when it comes to the Florida Mayhem versus Washington Justice, I think Washington can win. I don't know if I'm like doing wishful thinking there, but I've just seen a better performance from the Washington over the Mayhem, even though the Mayhem somehow won a game against Philadelphia, which we don't talk about because that doesn't make any sense. But
Carpe was too focused on the trash talk and only prep for Dallas that week. I was responsible for that win. Florida, you're welcome. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Sticking
Be nice
out
to Philly. Kate's here.
No.
And Elk was there. He was on an off roll. I mean, that's probably has slightly more to do with it than my trash talk interview, but like, I'm not going to say that out loud, you know?
It was just an amalgamation of weirdness. But I don't know. I mean, the Washington Justice took a map off of NYXL. So, I mean, hey, anything's possible. And I definitely think that they can beat Florida Mayhem. It's not a game that's on a lot of people's radars because it's like the bottom of the bottom. But I think they can win. I hope that they win. I want them to win.
Some of the most entertaining games were between low end of the pack teams. Like Florida versus Shanghai last season was hype and was a very good game, or a comedy of errors that kind of coagulated into a pretty entertaining game. So Florida versus Washington could be the same. There could also just be a point where suddenly the players like click, and that's it. There they go. Phew. You know, I talked to Jonas at great length, right, about like, how is this team sticking together? How is this team working together, living together, socializing together? And he said, we're kind of just figuring it out. So I tried to prod him. I was like, what if you took a more active role in putting the team together from a social perspective as the main tank and kind of de facto leader on the field? And he said, I could do that, huh? I'm paraphrasing extremely heavily here. Please don't take any of this as gospel. This is mostly a shit post right now. But like, they kind of, I know the team is having that sort of discussion, right? Of like, we need someone we can rally around. We need to be a team that is all on the same page. Because if we're not, Jonas is going to press shift and fly off the map and die. Or press shift and hit a wall and die. Or press shift and actually pin someone, but then die before he kills them.
Oh, Jonas.
Oh, Jonas. But that's a thing that could happen. They could figure that out. There could be a point in which they turn that corner, and all of a sudden, Washington looked like a pretty good team. They have the pieces. They just need to put them together. So, if that can happen, Wizards fine. If that doesn't happen, another place for Made to potentially land. Wouldn't that be great? In any case, unless you guys have any other introspective questions you want to ask or other cool points to bring up about upcoming games, I think that just about does it for us. We're hitting 55 minutes of amazing content. And thanks very much to everyone tuning in. Last chance, anything from you guys?
No, I want Boston to win, thanks.
Well, I want Dallas to win, so I guess we'll just see what happens, won't we?
We'll see what happens.
Good night, everybody.
I'm just
Thanks
here.
very much for tuning in.